Hey Holly, alright, so here is the spread that you wanted to know about in regards to Mexico. And a lot of stuff was coming through already, so I'm just gonna start peppering things in. Okay, again, we're going to where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day, relationships, feelings, another important day, death, lesson, time. Okay, so the card that came out was awesome, obviously, the Americas card, so it's placing us right exactly where you want to go. Now, while I was shuffling, I'm not going to say that it's like, oh, Mexico. What I want to say is there's something about a pilgrimage across Mexico or through it, and there's something also about not obtaining the objective of the quest. So that's what's coming through. There's something about the theme of a pilgrimage, making a pilgrimage, and then the indulgence of allowing yourself to enjoy the journey of the pilgrimage despite not reaching the ultimate destination that it's like you previously programmed into what had to happen. So this is also about the culture that you're from. So in this aspect that we're looking at, it's a male aspect. And it feels like we're looking at a male aspect going on a cult, like a quest based on the culture or his heritage or the people that he's from, the community. And this is done, it's like every young warrior does this, that kind of thing. And it feels like as he's going through the terrain, there's like sidetracks and tangents he goes on. And it's important, like that is very important because no one told him about that. And they weren't supposed to, you're not supposed to know about that. That's like the secret of the pilgrimage or the quest, is you're going to be deterred. And ultimately you might not reach the destination that you set out to reach. And this is coming up a lot lately, where it's about indulging in, luxuriating in the moment to moment, the present moment, and where that takes you, even if it means taking you off the course that you previously thought was the correct course, or that previously felt right and good. It's the idea of like sometimes you like see a whole path laid out in front of you based on where you are right now, and it looks really great and enticing and wonderful and it's going to work out. And then something comes along and deters you, but it's not bad. It's just something that steals your interest, so to speak. And it's your obligatory duty to pay attention to the things that catch your attention and pursue them in the present moment if it feels right to do that, rather than maintaining the path, if maintaining the path feels like a chore, if that makes sense. So there's this idea of a path set out in front of you, and it's almost like the lesson of that is allowing yourself to surrender to what might come up in the midst of the path, and learning to discern whether it's correct or right or good or best for you to continue along the path laid out, or to go off into what I guess we would call the unknown. And the unknown holds a lot of risks, and that's where a lot of humans step into a more fear-based mode and maintain the path that they know is kind of clear and easy and good, and they could see the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. And they think going off on the tangents, there's not going to be such a light at the end of the tunnel that they could see on the path that they currently walk because they've been walking it for so long. But when you move into where you are drawn, you're going to see the light. It just might take a few walks, a few steps in the dark and a curve of the path around the bend to see it, if that makes sense. So this is really about trusting your intuition and trusting your guidance and trusting that you are guided even when things seem to be placed in your path that might look like not obstacles, not obstructions, but what's the word that wants to come out? Kind of like sidetracked games, like things that are enticing on the side, because I'm saying sidetrack games because they're enticing. So there's a discernment that needs to be made between what is taking you away from a path that is best for you versus things that are taking you off of a path that is stagnant. Does this make sense? So we're looking at you building your intuitive ability to discern whether the path you are on has grown stagnant but is clear and easy, versus a path that you're on that is actually best for you despite things that might be pulling you, wanting to pull you off of it. And that's really tough to do. It's tough to discern that. It really is. So what you're playing with here is discerning the voices of the ego from the intuition. I know we've touched on this before, but it's so very important. The ego is going to sound a certain way to you. The ego is going to sound, when you feel pulled off a path, it's going to sound like, oh, if you do this, then you're going to gain this all the way down here. Once you do A, B, C, you're going to get X, Y, Z. So what they want to say to you is, if the voice is telling you, if the voice is focusing on an ultimate end goal that seems very rich and very enticing and very everything, like very like just grabbing at you to come off of the path in order to get the ultimate end destination over here, that would be the ego talking. Because the higher self, the voice, when it pulls you off the path that's stagnant, it's going to say, hey, come here, look at this for a second. Just check this out. Right here at the edge of the path over here, just check this out over here. See how you feel about this right here, right now. How do you feel about this right here, right now? It's not going to say, hey, come over here, and ultimately it's going to lead you to wealth, or it's going to lead you to ultimate, all your desires. That's the ego. The ego is going to speak in a way that pulls you out of the present and puts you far in the future where you gain things. The higher self is going to pull you to the side gently and show you something just right here in the moment that may ultimately lead you a little further and a little further and a little further and a little further. But it's going to want to keep you in the present moment and just maybe give you flashes or glimpses of something that may come that is lovely and that feels good. So they can sound very similar, but ultimately you want to look for what the ego is offering versus what the higher self is offering, because the higher self will offer things to you in the present moment that feel good and that you can build off of. The ego is going to offer you almost like an illusion of a prosperous future, if that makes sense. But it's not that you can't see a beautiful future through the eyes of your higher self or intuition. It just is the subtle, energetic feeling. There's a difference there, and it's for you to discern that. Okay, let's get back to this. So what this aspect of you did with the majority of your time, we look at the hunter provider, and it feels like we're looking at someone who is a warrior. And in the sense of warrior, it's almost like, I say warrior because that's just like a title, because really this is a person that provides security for the people. And it's not necessarily that they're in war or at war. It's just someone who would be the person who takes up the role of protector. So I'm trying to see how this plays into, this goes back to the pilgrimage. There's something about, again, it's about the journey, not the destination. It's about veering off course when it calls to you. It's like important that you don't be so stubborn in your thinking or beliefs that you must maintain. There is something good about stability and maintaining aspects of your life. but there are aspects that you don't want to be so stubborn about and that you want to be more flexible about. So if the idea or theme of flexibility is coming to mind or coming into play in your life in any way, pay attention to it and work through it and feel it out. And you want to feel any belief systems you may hold in regards to your flexibility about certain things. It could be about parenting. It could be about your role as a parent, your role as a lover, your role as a certain family member or friend or whatever it may be, knowing that you have the ability to rewrite and redefine your role at any time. You have that power, so stay empowered and find a place where you feel empowered and practice maintaining yourself in that empowered place. That's a good vibration to hold yourself in. This is not a place of ego. This is not a place of maintaining dignity or pride. Empowerment is not that. Empowerment is alignment. This is a place where you want to be. When you're in a place of alignment, that's when the choices and decisions become quite natural feeling. So we're also looking at this card too. What comes in, the protector mode, is the idea of connecting you as far as parenting. It feels like this needs to be looked at too as far as the degree of protectiveness that you play, the role and degree of protectiveness that you play with your children, and also to understand, to step back in order to recognize your children as individual souls going through lessons every now and then. If you can do a practice, a weekly practice, let's say you do every Friday, you step back and you take a meditation out where you recognize your children as individual souls on their path, what they're learning, seeing them from outside of yourself, outside of your human parental role, and seeing what these little souls that you've brought into the world, what they're learning and what they're capable of learning. And also in the sense of what they're capable of learning, should you take on a different role? Let's say, again with flexibility, let's say you're a mama bear in regular life. If you were to be flexible, take on the role, and this is in your meditation just to like feel out the subtle energy differences. If you were to take on the role, going from mama bear to, let's say, it's hard because the word is not, I don't want to say carefree as in you don't care, but carefree in the way of being more lax in certain routines or certain ways you address certain issues regarding the kids individually. So if you usually approach one kid regarding one of the topics that you deal with that child, usually how you approach it, usually in response, reaction, or initiating the topic, whatever it might be. It could be about their behavior or something that they, it could be anything. Play with the idea of approaching it in an opposite way or different way, and see how it feels to be flexible, at least just in your mind's eye, and approaching a topic a different way. And I feel like they're giving me that to tell you because it might not even be about the kids, but using them in your meditations regarding flexibility might be very helpful in other areas of your life where flexibility might be coming into play, either now or very soon, within months, so to speak, if there are other aspects where you feel flexibility will be useful. So also realize that in giving that as an example, there's the feeling of children agreeing to come in to play the role to help you become more flexible in certain ways at this time. As in their souls know that. As in they are representations or representatives to help you at this time in regards to, let's say, the notion of flexibility. Does that make sense? Or the notion of protectiveness, not just protectiveness over them, but of yourself, of your circumstances, of your mind, of your heart, that kind of thing. So you want to start taking a look at the walls that you have around your heart or your circumstances, your soul, your mind, your thoughts, what walls you have up. We all have walls. You want to look at them. You want to see which ones are acting as healthy boundaries versus barriers again. So keep that in mind, and we're going to go to the first important day here. This is the Wowzer card. So there's like an aha moment, surreal moment, something enlightening. This is the Soul Group card. And this is the feeling of kind of, it's like, usually it's like a lonely feeling, but in this sense, it feels peaceful lonely. So we're looking at this day is a day of connecting with nature fully. This day is a day of connecting with nature in a way that this aspect of you has never connected before, even though being brought up in a community where nature plays a pivotal role. There hasn't been an individual connection to the nature aspect, only a community aspect or a community connection, understanding how the community and how he being brought up and how everyone in the tribe or community or whatever it might be, how nature plays a pivotal role, but not really having an individualistic connection to it that is subjective and personal. And I feel like this day is a very personal day, and I feel like this day is connecting to what you spoke about, what happened in Mexico, as far as feeling fully more yourself, feeling more aspects of yourself, opening up to more deeper parts of yourself. This is what it is, and this is, the message is a deep desire of you connecting with not just nature, but your natural aspects. And when they say that, it's like bringing up a very primitive, guttural sound that they're playing for me, and it's almost like the sound of a woman giving birth without medicine, and a sound of a woman mourning the death of someone they loved. It's a deep guttural sound. It's disturbing and primitive, and but not in a bad way, because it's human and it's the experience of being human. So when we experience a kundalini awakening or rising, there are parts of our humanity that are intertwining with the spirituality of being human in a way that in itself would produce a sound that might sound like orgasm in a sense. So it's even the sound of orgasm that is so natural and profound, and how there are so many women especially that quiet the sound of orgasm, or they hide it, or they muffle it, or don't fully express it. And it feels like there is a call for you to learn to fully express at least that sound, whether it's by yourself at first to get used to it, but allowing yourself, even if you are naturally quiet for orgasm, this is a call for you to try to emit the most natural primitive sound that comes from when you orgasm. So again, if that is not something that you're used to, then try it yourself before with a partner. But ultimately, the goal is to feel the utmost ease in the sounds of your human body when the human body is performing, whether it is sexual, grief-stricken, or out of pain, joy, whatever it might be, the most human things. And it feels like this is very profound. I've never spoken about this before in a reading. This feels very, very, very profound, and it feels very elevated despite talking about the primitive state and the natural state. There is an elevated, higher consciousness, interwoven element in combining the primitive with the higher mind. It's very interesting. It's very sensual, and it's very enlightening. I'm trying to feel it. It's because this is new, so I'm feeling out what's coming through, but I feel like that is where they want to leave that for you, at least for now. And I feel like this is a step in what is going to be many steps for you in the upcoming future, like in the next few years. It feels like it's a building towards something like, I want to say, Holly, within 3 years from this time, you're going to feel like you have become a completely different person, but in the most profound, empowering way. Like, if you feel empowered now, I almost want to say, like, oh, wait for it. Like, just you wait and see. Like, this feels very powerful here. This is really, really good. Yeah, wow. Okay, so let's go to the next important day. Keep making connections. So this day is there is death in this place card with the soulmate and happy. Now, what's really interesting is usually the death card, you see a death, you witness a death, and I want to say there are many deaths along this pilgrimage that you're making. It's honor killings, but to feed yourself, but you do it in a sacrificial, honorable way. So it's respectful towards nature. Always the respect towards nature, which they want to say respecting nature means respecting yourself. You're not going around killing animals anymore. You don't have to say prayers over them, but you need to pray over yourself. You need to respect your own natural instincts, natural tendencies. Again, I feel like this is coming through, this what we talked about here. And to almost like you need to pay reverence to yourself as people used to go to the temples and pay reverence to the gods. You need to see the God within yourself and start praying to that self and loving that self and treating that self with reverence. But here we see the death of the old self, the death of an ego here. As your journey is coming round full circle, it feels like you've been gone a year, like a year pilgrimage, full circle. You've had the death of an ego, enlightenment has come in. It's not a full thing. This is an ongoing journey, but this is a first full ego death. This is fully understanding for the first time your role, this aspect, his role in the scheme of life, in the scheme of things, and how it's both very significant and profound and yet utterly insignificant and meaningless at the same time. It's that whole circle of life and souls and everything. It's like you're here for a purpose, and your purpose is big and large, but at the same time, it's not any bigger than anyone else's purpose. It's just different. And just understanding that, so being able to really appreciate you and your purpose while also appreciating the next person beside you, even if they seem to not be doing much at all in the world, they still have a place in it, just as you do. It's very interesting. So the soulmate comes in because the aspect that emerges from the ego death is more aligned than the aspect prior to the ego death. So even though this person was in tune with nature and almost like mature and understood his place in his community, it took the ego death in order for him to feel what it feels like to feel fully aligned with himself on his own. Always surrounded before with community and others to help, but all alone on his own. The alignment takes place in a sense where it makes it so that he doesn't feel isolated or lonely when he's alone. He's fully aligned. So he feels like the comfort of his own company for the first time. It's not like he was hating the journey, like, oh, I feel alone and lonely, boo-hoo. It wasn't like that. But it was not even knowing that he had what he was feeling was loneliness in some way until he felt partaking of his own company in the most joyous form he's ever known. So it's like we don't even know what we don't know until we experience something, and then we're like, oh, that was depression. I didn't know that was depression. I thought that was normal. So if you go through life depressed, to you that's normal until you come out of depression, a whole new mindset perspective, and then you realize, holy shit, I was depressed the whole time. I didn't even know it. Because you don't know what you don't know until you have switched and shifted into a different mindset and perspective and see through new eyes. And I feel like that is the transition you are going through right now. And I know I said like 3 years or whatever, and that is going to go by in the blink of an eye. You're going to see this shift happen where right now something is invisible to you that soon you will look back and see it was completely not what you thought it was, in the very best way. And so this happy card is for joy. It's the internal joy you feel when you have that aha moment, when you have that realization, that ego death, and you come out of it and you can, again, it's like seeing the world to greater degrees than you ever did before. Feeling like right now you could be like, no, I totally like see everything, I can see and I have great perspective. And it's like, yeah, you do, but the whole point of like this whole human journey is to keep growing and gaining deeper and deeper insights to the nth degree. And you know that you're going to look back. That's why there's that term called hindsight. You're going to see hindsight come up very, very, very shortly. And you're going to be so much happier in the place you're going to be in looking back. You're going to know a level of appreciation you've never known before, and that's coming up for you, and that's going to feel so good. Now, I feel like as far as talking about the time, they want to bring in like the time aspect of this, and this feels like time doesn't even have to, like the time period, it's not even worth it. It doesn't matter. It's back in the day. It's not colonized. I can see that. Like there's no, I want to say no white men, that kind of thing, but it doesn't matter. Because this quest in itself, how it's linked to time, it doesn't matter because it takes as long as it takes. As far as this quest goes, it takes as long as it takes. So there's also a message in there of allowing yourself to lose track of time, which is really hard, especially when you have kids and you have responsibilities and jobs and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But that's where you want to really focus on allowing yourself to meditate and to drop into your being and to stop doing so much. You want to give yourself time every day where you can lose track of time. Basically, give yourself time every day to lose track of time. Exactly that. And that's what meditation should be. So if you give yourself an hour or a half hour to just throw the watch away and not pay any mind to it, you can set an alarm and I'll let you know when, so you don't have to think about it. But you need to stop thinking about it. You need to get out of time. You need to step out of the illusion of time. Because time demands things from you. And when it demands things, your mind is going, and your mind is not letting go enough for you to hear the answers that you need to hear, that you want to hear every day when you have questions. You have all the answers, but you can't hear them because you're not allowing yourself to step out of time enough. And yoga is great, and if you meditate, great. But if you're wanting those answers to pop up and come right from your higher self, right into your mind, you're going to need to learn to quiet the mind even more and give yourself more time. And by doing that, you need to give yourself more time to step out of time. That's what they want to say. So here we have the Death card, and this is the Water card. The Water card. And all this is you died during a rainy season. That's it. That's all they want to say. You died during the rainy season. So if you take pleasure in the rain, that would be one thing, because it was not a hard death. It was a long life and death during the rainy season. If you see the rain and you appreciate the rain, if you have even asked for rain before, like, oh, I should do a rain dance, in your own mind or whatever. However rain plays into your life, but this can also be the water aspect that we know plays a deep part in your life as well. Just another message, another prompting of, hey, make sure you're by the water, make sure it's even like, not just going to the water, which is amazing to receive messages and meditate and all that, but even having like one of those like mini fountains in your house, even like a tiny little fountain you can put on the counter in the kitchen kind of thing to hear the water. It's the same frequency. It'll take you there. So just a thought. And then the lesson here, this lesson is letting go. And this speaks directly to the ego death, letting go of the ego. And it's really interesting because up here we talked about discerning between the ego and the higher self as far as diverting from a path. This speaks about once you recognize the ego enough that you know exactly what it is, the next step is learning to let it go. Let it fade away. You hear the voice, don't get angry, don't get frustrated. Just be like, hey, oh, there you are, ego. Okay, bye. Bye-bye. Letting it go. And in doing that, the more you let the ego go, the more you recognize it, acknowledge it, and then let it go, the more apt you are to come to another ego death. And when there's an ego death, that creates space for your higher self to come through. So this card is really, the letting go card is really about creating space within yourself for more enlightening information and profound experiences to come through and fill that space, okay? So you want to let go to create space. Let go to create space. And that might even answer something you might have, like if you're thinking of needing to declutter your home, you know, like that Marie Kondo, you know, like let go of things that don't bring you joy. I feel like that's also talking about that as well, as far as letting go to create space within yourself, in your body, in your mind, soul, heart, but also letting go to create space in your environment around you, because the environment around you is very, very helpful in reflecting what's going on the inside. But also if the environment around you is clear of clutter, it will also help clear your inside as well. So it's the thing with manifestation about, you know, what you think you will ultimately see reflected around you if you do manifestation the right way, so to speak. And this, it feels like so too, if you take the time to clear the space around you, outside of you, it will naturally, it will naturally evoke a response within you to declutter your internal space as well, okay? So anyway, there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it answered some questions you might have had regarding the Mexico experience, and I hope you're able to make some connections here that is helpful, and thanks for letting me read you.